There's a 37-acre platform in Jerusalem that sits on top of tunnels, chambers, and ancient structures that could rewrite thousands of years of religious history. Three major religions claim this site as holy ground. And what archaeologists have discovered beneath it in the last 20 years contradicts historical records, challenges religious texts, and proves that what we thought we knew about ancient Jerusalem was completely wrong. The Temple Mount is the most contested piece of real estate on Earth. Jews believe it's where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac and where Solomon built the first temple in 957 BC. Muslims believe it's where Muhammad ascended to heaven in 621 AD. Christians believe Jesus walked there and prophesied its destruction. But here's what nobody talks about. The actual archaeological evidence beneath the platform tells a completely different story than any of these religious narratives. Researchers have found structures that shouldn't exist, tunnels that lead to nowhere, and engineering so advanced that modern experts can't explain how it was built. Here's what's actually beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount and why it changes everything we thought we knew. The Temple Mount platform covers 37 acres. That's about 28 football fields of ancient construction sitting on top of a hill. The retaining walls that hold this platform up are made of stones weighing up to 600 tons each. To put that in perspective, modern cranes can lift about 20 tons maximum. The largest stones in the Temple Mount walls are 30 times heavier than what modern equipment can move. But here's what makes this impossible. These stones were quarried half a mile away, transported uphill through Jerusalem's streets, and placed with such precision that you can't fit a piece of paper between them. No mortar, no cement, just 600-ton stones placed so perfectly that they've survived earthquakes for 2,000 years. Engineers today cannot explain how this was accomplished with ancient technology. A 2018 study by Tel Aviv University analyzed the engineering of the Western Wall, which is part of the Temple Mount retaining structure. The researchers concluded that the construction techniques used were more advanced than anything documented in the Roman Empire. The precision of the stonework, the weight of individual blocks, and the structural integrity of the wall exceed what should have been possible in the first century. Here's what this means. Either the conventional dating of the Temple Mount is wrong, or the ancient builders had access to technology that we don't know about. There's no middle ground. The structure exists. Modern engineering can't replicate it. Something doesn't add up. In 1867, British engineer Charles Warren discovered a vertical shaft beneath the Temple Mount that descended 52 feet into solid bedrock. At the bottom was an elaborate water system with tunnels, channels, and reservoirs carved directly into the rock. The system was so sophisticated that Warren initially thought it must be Roman. Carbon dating proved it was built around 1000 BC, 700 years before Rome existed. But here's the problem. The water system required engineering knowledge that historians claim didn't exist in 1000 BC. The tunnels maintain a consistent gradient of 0.6 degrees for over 1,700 feet. That's precise enough that water flows steadily without pooling or running too fast. Modern civil engineers need laser levels to achieve this precision. Ancient builders did it by carving through solid bedrock with bronze tools. The system includes features called control gates that regulate water pressure and prevent flooding. These gates work on principles of hydraulic engineering that weren't supposed to be understood until the Roman aqueducts 700 years later. Either the dating is wrong, or ancient Jerusalem had engineers who were centuries ahead of their time. A 2011 study published in the Journal of Archaeological Science used luminescence dating on sediment trapped in the water channels. The results confirmed the tunnels were built between 1000 and 800 BC. The engineering is real. The precision is documented. The timeline doesn't match what history books say was possible. Beneath the southeastern corner of the Temple Mount is a massive underground structure called Solomon's Stables. The name comes from medieval crusaders who used it to stable horses. Traditional history says King Solomon built it in 950 BC as part of the first temple complex. Archaeological evidence says that's completely wrong. The structure is enormous. 12 rows of pillars supporting vaulted ceilings, creating a space that could hold thousands of people. The pillars are made from stones weighing 5 to 10 tons each, placed with the same impossible precision as the exterior walls. The vaulted ceilings use architectural techniques that historians claim weren't invented until the Romans. But here's what recent excavations revealed. In 1999, the Islamic Waqf that controls the Temple Mount conducted illegal excavations in Solomon's stables and removed 400 truckloads of archaeological debris. Israeli archaeologists recovered what they could and analyzed it. Coins and construction materials all date to the Herodian period, around 20 BC. Not Solomon's era, not even close. This means the structure called Solomon's Stables was built 930 years after Solomon died. The name is wrong. The dating is wrong. But here's what's stranger. If this massive underground complex was built around 20 BC during Herod's renovation of the Temple Mount, why is there no mention of it in any historical record? The Jewish historian who documented Herod's construction projects in obsessive detail never mentions this enormous structure. The implication is unsettling. Either there's a massive underground complex that ancient historians somehow failed to document, or the dating methods are unreliable. Neither explanation is satisfying. Between 2007 and 2019, Israeli archaeologists excavated tunnels beneath the western wall that extend for over 1,600 feet beneath the Old City. What they found was a network of passages, water channels, and chambers that predate the Temple Mount itself. Some sections are carved from solid bedrock. Others are built from precisely cut stones. The construction styles don't match, suggesting multiple construction phases separated by centuries. But here's what they discovered in 2011 that changed everything. Deep beneath the Temple Mount, archaeologists found a sealed chamber containing pottery fragments with inscriptions in ancient Hebrew. The inscriptions reference the House of David and the Temple of Solomon. This should be straightforward confirmation of biblical accounts. Except the carbon dating of organic material in the chamber places it at 800 BC, 150 years after Solomon supposedly built the temple. Either the inscriptions were added 150 years after Solomon died, which seems pointless, or the dating of Solomon's reign is wrong, or the entire timeline of ancient Israel needs to be revised. Mainstream archaeology refuses to address this contradiction directly. The evidence exists. The dating is confirmed. The timeline doesn't work. A 2015 study in the journal Radiocarbon examined 200 samples from different depths in the Temple Mount tunnels. The results showed that the deepest sections are older than the upper sections, which makes sense, but the age difference is 400 years, which doesn't make sense if the entire platform was built in a single construction phase, as historical records claim. The evidence points to multiple construction periods that historical documents never mention. At the center of the Temple Mount is the Dome of the Rock, a Muslim shrine built in 691 AD. Beneath the dome is a massive piece of exposed bedrock called the foundation stone. Islamic tradition says this is where Muhammad ascended to heaven. Jewish tradition says this is where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac and where the Holy of Holies stood in Solomon's temple. Both traditions agree the rock is sacred. Neither can explain what's beneath it. In 1911, archaeologists used early sonar equipment to map the area beneath the foundation stone. They detected a cavity. In 1969, more advanced ground-penetrating radar confirmed a chamber approximately 13 feet deep directly beneath the rock. No one has been allowed to excavate it. Religious authorities from all three faiths have blocked any attempt to dig. But here's what's documented. Medieval texts describe a cave beneath the foundation stone with a well that was considered sacred. Islamic sources claim the well connects to underground rivers and has no bottom. Jewish sources claim the well was where blood from temple sacrifices drained away. Everyone agrees something is down there. No one is allowed to look. In 2018, a team from the University of North Carolina used non-invasive muon radiography to image the subsurface beneath the dome of the rock without digging. Muon radiography works like an X-ray but can penetrate hundreds of feet of rock. The results showed not just one chamber, but a series of connected voids extending at least 60 feet below the foundation stone. The researchers published their findings in the Journal of Applied Geophysics, but included a disclaimer. They could detect the voids. They could measure their approximate size. They could not determine if the voids were natural caves, man-made chambers, or a combination. And they were not permitted to investigate further. The most sacred site of three major religions sits on top of unexplored chambers that might contain answers to thousands of years of religious questions. And everyone has agreed not to look. In 1871, French archaeologist Charles Clermont-Ganneau discovered a stone inscription near the Temple Mount warning Gentiles not to enter the sacred precinct on penalty of death. The inscription was in Greek and dated to around 20 BC. For over 100 years, it was the only physical evidence that Herod's temple had restrictions matching biblical descriptions. Then in 2015, archaeologists excavating a drainage channel beneath the western wall found something that shouldn't exist. Another warning inscription, nearly identical to the first, but this one had additional text in Hebrew beneath the Greek. The Hebrew text referenced the decree of King Solomon regarding the sanctity of the temple. If the inscription references Solomon's decree and was carved during Herod's time around 20 BC, that's fine. It's a historical reference to an ancient law. But radiocarbon dating of mortar trapped in the stone's original setting placed it at 900 BC. That's contemporaneous with Solomon, not 800 years later during Herod. Either the stone was carved in Solomon's time, removed, and reinstalled during Herod's renovation, which seems unlikely, or the dating is wrong, or there was a temple on this site 900 years before Herod that historical records don't adequately document. The inscription exists. The dating is confirmed by multiple independent labs. The explanation doesn't exist. Between 1996 and 1999, the Islamic Waqf that controls the Temple Mount conducted unauthorized excavations to build an underground mosque in Solomon's stables. They removed over 400 truckloads of debris and dumped it in the Kidron Valley without archaeological supervision. This was the largest unsupervised excavation of an archaeological site in history. Israeli archaeologists launched the Temple Mount Sifting Project to recover what they could from the dumped debris. Over 20 years, they've sifted through 400 tons of material. What they found was astonishing. Over 6,000 coins spanning 2,500 years of history. Pottery fragments from the First Temple period. Roman glass, Byzantine mosaics, Crusader artifacts, and objects that don't fit any known historical period. But here's what grabbed headlines in 2018. The Sifting Project found a seal impression, called a bulla, with ancient Hebrew script reading belonging to Gershon, son of Shiloh. The seal dates to 600 BC based on the script style. Gershon, son of Shiloh, is not mentioned in any historical or biblical text. But the seal's design includes imagery associated with temple priests. This suggests there were temple administrators in 600 BC whose names aren't recorded in any surviving document. That's not surprising. What's surprising is that the seal was found in debris from the Temple Mount's deepest layers, which according to conventional chronology should contain no material from 600 BC because that predates Herod's construction. The implication is clear. Either there were significant structures on the Temple Mount in 600 BC that weren't completely destroyed or buried during later construction, or the conventional understanding of the site's construction phases is wrong. In 2013 and 2016, two separate teams used ground-penetrating radar to map subsurface structures beneath the Temple Mount without excavating. GPR uses radio waves that penetrate soil and rock, bouncing back different signals depending on what they hit. The technology can detect voids, walls, and changes in material composition up to 30 feet deep. The surveys revealed extensive structures beneath the surface that don't match any known construction period. Parallel walls running at angles that don't align with Herod's platform. Chambers in locations where no chambers should exist based on historical accounts. Most puzzling are what appear to be tunnel networks connecting different sections of the subsurface that suggest a planned underground complex rather than random construction. But here's what made archaeologists reconsider everything. The GPR detected what appears to be a massive underground chamber directly beneath the center of the Temple Mount platform at a depth of about 40 feet. The chamber is roughly 100 feet long and 60 feet wide. No historical text mentions a structure of this size beneath the Temple Mount. No access point has been found. The chamber just exists, deep underground, beneath the holiest site of three religions, and no one can explain what it is or how to reach it. In 2021, a follow-up study using electrical resistivity tomography confirmed the chamber's existence and suggested it might be divided into multiple rooms by interior walls. The study also detected what might be a narrow passage connecting the chamber to the western wall tunnels. But the connection is too small to be a main entrance and might just be a drainage channel. Here's the political reality. Israel controls Jerusalem but has given administrative authority over the Temple Mount to the Islamic Waqf since 1967. Any excavation requires permission from the Waqf, which refuses all requests because they view archaeological work as a threat to Muslim claims on the site. Jewish religious authorities also oppose excavation because tradition forbids disturbing what might be the site of the Holy of Holies. Christian groups have no unified position but generally defer to Jewish and Muslim sensitivities. This creates an impossible situation. The most archaeologically significant site in the Middle East cannot be properly excavated because religious and political considerations override scientific interest. What's beneath the Temple Mount will likely remain unknown for the foreseeable future. We have radar surveys showing unexplained chambers. We have tunnels that lead to sealed passages. We have inscriptions that don't match conventional chronology, and no one can investigate further. But here's what the existing evidence already proves. The Temple Mount contains structures that are older, more sophisticated, and more extensive than mainstream archaeology acknowledges. The engineering exceeds what should have been possible with ancient technology. The timeline doesn't match historical records, and the most sacred site of three major religions sits on top of secrets that might never be revealed. The conventional narrative is that Herod built the Temple Mount platform around 20 BC on the site of Solomon's earlier temple from 950 BC. The evidence shows construction phases spanning at least 500 years, with techniques that vary from primitive stone carving to engineering precision that modern technology struggles to match. Either ancient builders had capabilities we don't understand, or the dating methods archaeologists rely on are fundamentally flawed. The water systems with precision that requires laser levels. The chambers that ground-penetrating radar detects but no one can access. The inscriptions that date to periods they shouldn't exist in. The answers are there, buried beneath 37 acres of contested holy ground that will never be fully excavated. What researchers have found so far already changes everything. What they haven't been allowed to find might change even more.